In this video, we're going to be talking about the Marvel show WandaVision on Disney Plus and 6 lessons that YouTubers, creators, and influencers can learn from the series. And this video, by the way, will contain some heavy spoilers, so if you have not yet watched the series, go watch the series. By the way, my name is Anton Wong. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here on this channel, I am here to unleash the power of video, so if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. Not since FX's Legion has a superhero show based on a Marvel property done something so different. While it is still under the control of Kevin Feige and held down by the restraints of needing to be connected with the larger Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's different enough to work well as a solo story. One of the things that kept entering my mind while watching this show was how YouTubers, filmmakers, and video creators, and just creators in general, can learn lessons from this show, both from the making of the series and the lessons learned by the characters themselves. Now, I say YouTubers and creators, but some of these lessons can be applied to just about any creative, entrepreneur, or just humans living on this planet. This isn't an exhaustive list either, it's just a list of the things that stood out to me the most, and I'd love to hear your comments in the comments below on whether you agree or disagree with my points, or you want to add anything. But without further ado, let's get into it. Lesson 1, homage is great, or homage. One thing WandaVision did great is pay homage or homage to past eras of television. Showrunner Jack Schaefer and director Matt Shakman had called the show a love letter to the golden age of television. One thing you can obviously see is the plot of the show, that Wanda is creating this world of sitcoms because that's what makes her feel comfortable. But when you look at the attention to detail, at the homage or homage that they made to each era of television, such as era-specific lenses and lights and sound design on top of the era-specific production design, dialogue, and acting, you'll see that they really leaned in to those looks while kind of still making it their own. For a show that was so bonkers, they were able to use the show's format of each era to keep the audience engaged and understand what's going on so that they can implement their new stories and new ideas on top of it. Kind of like how the movie Logan was able to take the Western format and use it to tell the story of Logan, aka Wolverine, in a way that we hadn't quite seen before on the big screen. For creators, this doesn't necessarily mean you need to rent specific lenses so that your vlogs can look like Star Wars or something. It just means that it's okay to take inspiration from and pay homage to previous formats that have come before while making it your own. When Casey Neistat blew up in 2015, everyone started using his style. Then people eventually figured out how to incorporate a bit of it into their own formats to make it their own and use their own style. This video format itself that I'm doing right now, it actually is taken from articles on entrepreneur.com's lessons that entrepreneurs can learn from this thing, as well as Raindance articles on lessons that filmmakers can learn from that thing. My current video style and format is actually taken from many of the creators who I grew up watching. Creators like Ryan Higa, to John Green, to the newer people like Wisecrack. So don't be afraid to use other formats as a basis for doing your own thing. Lesson 2, ground your work in something relatable. What I mean by this is not necessarily to try to be hashtag relatable, like how some people say. What I mean to say is try to understand the why someone might take what you're saying to heart. In WandaVision, the relatability factor didn't just come from the sitcom formats that it was taking inspiration from, but actually from the central themes that the show was about, mainly about grief. Shakman and Schaefer had gone on record saying that this series was about processing grief, using Wanda as the vehicle to bring up those themes. They even consulted a grief counselor for more accuracy. Now, while the people watching this series might not fully relate to what Wanda is going through, and they definitely won't be able to take hold of an entire small town to make their own sitcoms, they certainly can relate to the grief. The fact that the show was released roughly a year after the pandemic started, and while many are still negatively affected by it, meant that viewers were able to relate to their very recent grief. Whether they have lost loved ones, as many have, or just lost their regular way of life, it was this grounding in realness that made WandaVision so poignant for audiences. And for creators, it might be a good idea to understand why you're trying to make what you're making and why someone might want to watch it. You might be making various sketches or vlogs or tutorials on various things, but apart from being a fun thing to do, why are you making this and who are you making it for? If you're making comedic sketches, is it grounded in something that people can relate to and understand? Maybe your tutorial on how to build a kid-safe computer is actually grounded in the understanding that the viewers are parents trying to provide their kids with safe learning and entertainment resources. And I'm also not saying that you can't make stuff that isn't grounded or that everything has to have a strong, deeper purpose. But thinking about these things can make your videos and creations a lot more enduring, just like how WandaVision was able to make their wild and fun spectacle real. Which brings me to the inverse of that, lesson 3. Lesson 3, make your realness something different and digestible. At the same time that WandaVision creators made the show grounded in its core themes to make it enduring and relatable for viewers who might not have otherwise enjoyed the superhero comic book adaptation, they also used the fun and crazy superhero comic book elements to tell their stories of grief to audience who might not have wanted that more blatantly. Making a show strictly about grief might have been hard during a time when so many people are going through hardships, and while it may be healthy for people to understand the process of grieving during it, a show tackling it head on during this time may feel overwhelming and make them just want escapism. This is something that WandaVision does well. During the first few episodes, the characters and storylines are just in a fun state of old sitcom tropes mixed in with a little bit of sci-fi intrigue and mystery. The ability to then gradually introduce the idea that this is all a fabrication being controlled by Wanda due to her grief is what allows them to talk about these themes. Just like how a spoonful of sugar will help the medicine go down, a spoonful of escapism, intrigue, and sci-fi fun helped people who might not have otherwise watched a show about grief understand it through these characters. In the same way, when making your videos about financial wisdom or philosophies on art, you may want to consider packaging it in a way that might lure people in who might not have otherwise clicked. Again, I'm not saying that every video needs to be like this, but look at this video. This video, some of you who are watching this might not have cared about these lessons for YouTubers if I hadn't also talked about WandaVision. So now we can get into the lessons that we can learn from the characters themselves. Lesson 4, don't be blind to your ambitions. Of course, while Wanda's grieving state caused her to act in this way, there are two main people who weren't in a state of grief and actually represent the follies of being blind to your ambitions. Hayward and Agnes, also known as Agatha Harkness. In the show, you see Agatha be blind to her ambitions of being the most powerful sorceress, kind of like how Salieri was jealous of how Mozart was effortlessly using his talent. Agatha was so set on becoming the most powerful witch that she brought upon her own demise and quite frankly ended up in a worse situation than she was previously. As for Hayward, he was so dead set on rebuilding the Vision to be able to use him as a weapon that he put multiple people's lives in danger, including his own. When he was blind to the advice of Monica Rambeau, Darcy Lewis, and Agent Jimmy Woo, his downfall ultimately led to him losing the fight and getting arrested. And for creators, this is not to say that you shouldn't be ambitious or have goals, because those are important. After all, those are the reasons why you kind of started this thing. But make sure that you don't let your personal ambitions and goals of getting lots of views, likes, and followers hurt other people or be so blind to what is achievable that you end up hurting yourself and quite possibly others. I'm not going to name any names of any particular YouTubers or influencers who have represented this, but you could probably think of your own examples. And while I'm not against the idea of ambitions or goals or dreams, like I said, I think you need to have your own self-awareness to not let these things get the better of you. Which brings me to lesson 5. Lesson 5, careful not to control everyone. Now obviously you guys don't have the same powers as Wanda to be able to mind control an entire small town. But as with anything, you want to make sure that you know who you're surrounding yourself with and who your support is. If the people you surround yourself with are people that are just yes people and enablers who will say yes to whatever it is you want to do without providing you with any perspective or pushback of any kind, that's not a good situation to be in. And it goes without saying that you definitely should not be manipulating or controlling people to, do whatever it is you want to do. If you look at the moments when Monica, Jimmy, and Darcy were working together and bouncing different ideas off of each other, and compare that to when Agatha, Hayward, and Wanda were not listening to people around them, or worse, controlling them, they were putting themselves and other people's in danger. In the same way, as creators, you want to have a group of people, whether they be your friends, family, or other creators, that you can bounce different ideas off of and see who can see the blind spots in your plan. When you have different perspectives working together, you're more likely to get a better outcome than if you were to just surround yourself with yes people and enablers. Which brings me to my final point. Lesson 6, allow other people to help. When Monica showed up to help Jimmy with the missing persons case, in the case of Westview, he didn't say no. No, he welcomed her help with open arms and a really cool close-up magic trick to get her opinion on things, as well as when they worked together with Darcy Lewis. But when Wanda turned down the help of Monica, that ended in her going further down the path of grief and leading to her confrontation with Agatha and Hayward. Similarly, the writer Jack Schaefer didn't actually have any prior writing experience in television. She had experience writing for Black Widow and Captain Marvel films, but not for television. That's why she brought on a diverse team of experienced television writers to help her bring in not just experience, but also perspective. As creators, we may feel like we have to take on every single role, from writing, shooting, editing, performing, and so many other things. So much so that we turn down production help from other people or try to not take advice from other people. It's okay to accept help from others if they are willing to lend a hand. Not that I'm saying that you should accept help from every single person who offers it, or that you need to do that for every situation, but don't be so obsessed with the one being the one and only person to do and control everything. In other words, don't let your ego get in the way of your art. So to sum up, lesson 1, don't be afraid to pay homage and use the format and styles of previous productions. Lesson 2, ground your work in something real and relatable to understand the why of why someone might watch your video. Lesson 3, package your main theme and realness in something different and consumable for people who might not have otherwise come across that. Lesson 4, don't be so blind to your own ambitions that they hurt yourself or other people. Lesson 5, be careful who you surround yourself with, and be careful not to control those people around you or manipulate them, and be open to criticism. Lesson 6, allow other people to help you out so you can get a better product in the end. Now, if you agree or disagree with me on any of these points, or have other lessons that you might want to add in the comments, let me know in the comments below. You may also want to click over here to check out my video on the post-Imperial phase YouTube. In that video, I talk about what it means when a YouTuber is past their quote-unquote prime. So yeah, check it out, and I'll see you over there.